Hey everybody, and welcome to the 55th SongBike Guitar Q&A live stream. My name is still Jonathan, and here we are, Saturday, July 6th. Hopefully you all had a happy, safe 4th of July. Brian had a question right out of the gate, so let's jump on this. Brian says, hey Jonathan, I'm having issues switching from D to C, practicing Knock on Heaven's Door. Good choice, by the way. I know I could use G to D, then C add 9, but it doesn't seem great. Yeah, you're right. G to D to C add 9. C add 9 is that the C chord, where if you're coming from D, your ring finger stays on the second string, third fret, the B string, third fret, and you just reach over and fret the remainder of the C chord with your index and middle. Index, D string, second fret, middle finger, A string, third fret. Yeah, C add 9, great chord, but not the authentic chord to this song, as you know. So yeah, so the question is, how do you get good at going from D to C? And we might as well get good at it in Knocking on Heaven's Door, because you're going to see it in a million other songs too, right? That family of chords, G, D, and C, you can't get away from them, right? And why would you want to? So I'm going to state the obvious. D and C have no fingers in common. So you have no choice conventionally to, when you go from a conventional D to conventional C, you have no choice but to leave everything and jump to the next chord. So I'm going to talk about two things, strategies, because that's all you're left with, right? There's no, your brain can't, there's no trick that you're missing. So strategy number one is, now that you've done the important thing, which is you've isolated the issue, you've found the issue, you've isolated it, grab your D chord, give it a gentle squeeze, nothing crazy, a gentle squeeze. Go over to the C as quickly as you can, doesn't matter how long it takes, give that a gentle squeeze. And you're going to repeat that over and over again. Notice I keep saying gentle, right? However many times you can stand to do that. It doesn't hurt if you're, watching TV, watching the bird feeder, looking out the window, looking at the waves on the ocean, that would be great. However many times you can stand and do that, do it with your eyes glued to your fretting hand, do it, with your eyes closed. Nothing wrong with looking at your fretting hand fingers. That's great. But after a while, yeah, you can test yourself. Bottom line is muscle memory. Notice I'm not strumming at all. I'm not even worried about that. I'm focusing everything on my left hand fingertips. Okay. So this is labor intensive, right? As many repetitions as you can stand, strategy number two. If you're keeping, this strategy applies to those of you who might be practicing Knock on Heaven's Door with some fancy down up strumming. That kind of nice loose strumming, which is pretty authentic to the actual song, right? This advice does not apply to those of you who may be just giving gentle down strums. G twice, D twice, A minor, right? G, D, A minor, and then G. Nothing wrong with keeping the strumming simple like this. G twice, D twice, A minor 4 times, G twice, D twice, C 4 times. Nothing wrong with that. That's a great strategy, so you can give all your attention to your left hand. If you're doing some down ups like that, number one, consider not doing that and going back to that simple strum I just said. If you are comfortable enough doing that strumming with your strumming hand and it's simply the left hand that's messing you up, leaving early. I don't have a better name for it, so let's call it leaving early. Okay, we're going to be on the D chord for 2 slow counts. 1, 2, and then it's time for the C, right? But say you're doing this kind of strumming on the G. That kind of down up. You're allowed to leave the D chord before the 2 counts are up so that you can get to the C chord in the nick of time. that means that in slow motion, the last strums during the D chord section are going to be on open strings, but that's going to be unnoticeable, imperceptible to the casual listener and to most people. Not only is it going to be imperceptible, but it's absolutely a common professional way to keep the flow going while you're changing chords. So I'm gonna teach Knock on Heaven's Door in the way I commonly do, which is this strum. And then I'll show you what I mean by leaving early. On the G chord, down, 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 up, down, up. You know, I love watermelon. I love watermelon. I love watermelon. And you can do two of those on, well, the A minor first. You do I love watermelon. I love watermelon. And then same thing with G, D, C. I love watermelon. And then twice as long as C. I love watermelon. Okay, you good with that? 2 I love watermelons when you get to the A minor chord, and 2 I love watermelons when you get to the C chord. Okay, so what's the relevance here? In super slow motion, I'm isolating the moment when I'm playing my D chord. I love watermelon. Okay, on the last melon, that last part, I'm going to lift my hand away and begin changing to the C chord. In slow motion, it's not going to sound particularly great. Here it comes. Ready? D chord. I love watermelon. But notice, look at my fretting hand. My C chord's ready to go. I love, you know what I'm saying? I kept the flow going as slow as it is. I kept the flow going even while I was changing the chords. So I'll do it one more time, slow motion, D. I love watermelon. I love. By the way, this applies to any chord changes you ever do. Okay, way beyond Knocking Heaven's Door. Keeping your strumming going while you're lifting off, leaving early. Remember, I call it leaving early, and change to the next chord. Extremely common. In fact, I don't know how you could be a decent guitar player and not do this when it's necessary. You have to, you know. Chris Crate says, I love watermelon in a whole new way. So I'm going so slowly, I'm really calling your attention to what that sounds like with the open strings. Now I'm going to do it without talking so much. And my guess is that you wouldn't even know I'm leaving early if I hadn't told you a minute ago that I was. So here's D to C, the whole I love watermelon business. I'll do it again. Okay. Everybody does it. You should do it too. It's absolutely a strategy that not only do I recommend it, but I see it. My big, thick books. Give you an example. What do I got here? There's a reason I have this book handy. The Acoustic Guitar Tab White Pages. I can't tell you how many times when in using books like this, which are the authentic note-for-note transcriptions of tunes, how often I'll see that exact thing that I'm describing. You come to the end of a strum on a certain chord, and the last few things will be zeros because the person is lifting the hand away, going to the next chord. In fact, I would go as far as to say, you ready? I see that more often than I see a guitar player staying on the chord to the last split second and then magically changing to the new chord instantly. I may be exaggerating a little bit, but nah, it's really coming. Okay, so those are my strategies for you, Brian, in terms of getting to that C chord faster from D. You are correct. I'll say it one more time that the C add 9. It's not that it sounds bad. It just doesn't fit this song, and it's not in a jam, in a pinch. If you had to play Knocking on Heaven's Door, 5 minutes from now, yeah, go ahead and do it that way. But yeah, I'm talking about the C add 9. But you got to get good at D to C eventually, anyway. So I'll say one more thing or two more things. Knock on Heaven's Door, perfect time to play G with your middle ring and pinky, not with your index finger. Even though I know D is the next chord, that's not why. It's the part of the chord sequence when you've been on that C for I love watermelon, and it's time to go back to G. That's why you'll be glad that you've mastered G with your middle ring and pinky. Okay, the other thing I want to say is you've identified a really common, milestone in guitar progress. Where you come across a certain chord change, and there's no shortcut. There's no you have to power through. So you're not the first person, you're not the last person to get to this point in any song, but like Knocking on Heaven's Door, like, is there any trick to it? Am I missing anything? So yeah. So my friends, keep the questions coming in. We are here for your questions. That is why this live stream even exists. In between your questions, I get a bunch of things to throw your way. And when you do have a question for me, and I hope you have lots of questions, please put a few question marks in advance so I know. Like Bruce, I see your question with a bunch of question marks in advance. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Ron asked a good question. The thing about I love watermelon. He says, why not refer to that with more proper counting? Life is short. You guys are never going to forget, I love watermelon. So am I dumbing it down a little bit? Maybe. I mean, Ron, the way I would describe it in proper counting, 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4 and a. That's the way I would count it with the way I was taught. As a young drummer, counting, especially for any musician, but for drummers for sure, all you're thinking about is rhythms and keeping them straight in your brain and counting them properly. Means everything. For young drummers. So I see Bruce. Let's go to your question here, Bruce. And hello, Bruce and Byron in Sydney, Australia. You guys are my Australian peeps. Great question. Bruce says, on upstrokes, do you find yourself changing the angle of the pick to get a smooth upstroke? If I am doing that, I'm not doing it consciously. What I'm for sure changing, if I'm changing anything, I'm holding the pick a little bit looser on an upstroke. I assume, Bruce, that you're talking about this way that I'm strumming Knocking on Heaven's Door, like as to give this little context. In general, I'm holding the pick so loosely that hopefully everything, downs and ups, has that kind of gentle, soft, flowy, strummy kind of sound. So in general, I'm keeping a loose grip on the pick. I don't know if I'm holding it looser on the upstroke, like I said a minute ago, but for sure I'm almost subconsciously making sure I'm not squeezing it too tight to avoid that abrasive, kind of sound. All of us, in general, all of us hold our picks too tightly. You, me, all of us. We all do, because we're so afraid of dropping it. We think that's the problem. But nah. With my students, I would prefer to see them drop the pick once in a while during a lesson than to have to fight and beg for them to hold the pick looser. That's a tricky thing. I have not had great luck convincing the few of my students who have a real death grip. I have not had great luck convincing them to not have a death grip. I mean, most people take direction and sooner or later they lighten up. I've had a few people who and they get this abrasive sound, which makes them sound not as good as they really are, So in terms of the angle, though, no, I don't. I guess I would not use the word angle in describing what I'm doing on the upstrokes. No. But I'm thinking about it now, so I don't know. Maybe we'll revisit this later. Okay. Hey, I see we got 42 people in the house. That's awesome. Why do I have this book sitting on the music stand right here? I just try to remind you guys, remind myself to remind you guys, this is free. Get it. The SongBike Blues Guide, available for free at www.song-bike.com. Okay. It's small but mighty. A lot of good stuff in there. And of course, there's a video that accompanies it. The video is actually available right now for free on YouTube. Anyways, it's free. Avail yourselves of the resources. And while you're at the website, you can check out all the other stuff over there. Okay. I'm going to take a breath and wet my whistle from the cold, clear, sparkling waters of East Haven, Connecticut. Foxen Park. Tonight, we're tasting their cream soda. What can I say? It wets my whistle. Foxen Park, the taste of East Haven, Connecticut. Here is what you have to look forward to beyond my soda. In tonight's live stream, in between your questions and my answers, hopefully, something I'm calling the Evil Ways exercise. We're going to take a quick look at Evil Ways by Santana, and we're going to use Evil Ways as a music theory exercise. Oh, if you have a capo, get your capo handy. If you don't have a capo, get a capo. That's topic number one. We're also going to discuss the George Harrison chord. I read a great quote from Guitar Player magazine back in the 90s. George Harrison talking about a chord that he was very proud of and how that chord, what it meant to him. And I thought it was so cool. I loved because like a lot of you, I grew up listening to the Beatles all the time, and the Beatles probably have more of an effect on my musicality than any other music source, so much so that I sometimes forget they were real people writing songs with real fingers and being creative. And so this George Harrison quote and concept really turned me on, so I can't wait to share that with you. I want to revisit a topic from a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, I read you guys a quote from social media that said something to the effect of, hey, if you play your guitar 100 hours a year, you'll be better than 95% of the world of guitar players. And I dismissed that completely. And what I wanted to follow up on, though, was 18 minutes a day was what that boils down to. You play for 18 minutes a day and you're better than 95% of all the other guitar players in the world. I want to revisit that because nothing wrong with playing 18 minutes a day. That's great. So I want to share with you, if I took, let's say, a 20-minute practice session, what I would recommend. If you're going to practice for 20 minutes, okay, here's what I would recommend. So I want to throw that your way. We have a student quote of the week. We have a play-along song of the week. We have my own dumb question of the week. I ask it so you don't have to. And we have a poll question. So the poll question is up and running. The poll question, for those of you who are in the chat there, we have 25 votes already. The poll question is, all things being equal, would you prefer to have one teacher or several teachers? Now we're talking about, let's say they're all great teachers and they're all in your neighborhood. You have an amazing neighborhood of guitar teachers. All things being equal, price, everything being equal, except maybe, let's say, their expertise, right? Because there's something different about these teachers, but all the good stuff is the same. Would you rather have one teacher? Just keep it simple. Just have one teacher. Keep it focused. Come on, one good teacher. That's all you need, right? Why complicate matters? Or would you vote for having multiple teachers? Like, hey, if you're lucky enough to have 2 or 3 really good teachers in your neighborhood, come on, man, like take advantage of all of them. Okay, so we have 26 votes so far, and we are pretty darn close Okay, so your vote could make the difference. I don't know what kind of difference, but okay, so feel free. And if you're not in front of a computer and able to join the chat and vote at this moment, don't worry, I'm not going anywhere. We'll be here for a little while. But I'm very curious as to where you guys are. Hey, Beginner Guitar Lessons is our moderator. He is here. He is in blue with a blue wrench. So let's give it up for Beginner Guitar Lessons. And he is here to keep us rolling smoothly along. So thank you, Beginner Guitar Lessons, for being here. And I'm going to say a few more hellos before we go any further. In no particular order. Hello to Deborah. Hello to Live to Fly, LTF, Booba John, Mike G. Who else is here? Johnny Mobasher. Hello, Johnny Mobasher. Charlie Beagle. Hello. John Cavallo. Hello, John. Nice to hear from you. Max. Hello. Ron. Chris Crates. Hello. Bruce, of course. Barbara K. Hello, Barbara K. Barbara K has eye drops and is going to have to watch this show later. I get that. I get that. I've been there. Scott Rhodes. Hello. Wendy. Hello, Wendy. Randy. Hello. A lot of familiar names here, and that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Okay. I want to see. No, don't do that. Okay. And if I missed anybody, not to fear. DJ Batman is talking about A&W cream soda. Nothing wrong with A&W. It's just that, like I said, Fox and Park, the taste of the cold, clear, rushing waters of East Haven, Connecticut, which is more or less where we are here. Small town, Connecticut. Back in our Main Street studio after our short but successful run at the Elm Street studio, a stone's throw. New internet here at our Main Street studio, and it seems to be working just great. Knock on wood. Okay. Hey, you guys, let's jump right in to how about if let's talk about the George Harrison chord. Okay, let's do this. So this, now I got this secondhand. It was someone sharing on social media a quote from George Harrison from a 1992 interview with Guitar World magazine. And bear with me here. Okay, so George Harrison was saying he was writing a song and he came up with a chord that he really liked. And the song that he was writing was a song, an early Beatles song, maybe even a deep cut, you might say, called I Want to Tell You. And I'm going to put this right here. I Want to Tell You by the Beatles, but written by George Harrison. And George Harrison came up with a chord. Now, this chord ultimately was played on the piano. In fact, if you want to really know how much I geeked out over this, it comes in at about 25 seconds into the track. That's the first time it comes in. So the way George Harrison described the chord accurately, it's an E7 chord with a note F on top. And again, it's done on the piano. You know what? I assume it's George Harrison playing on the piano. Okay, so in this diagram here, what I have is I want to call your attention to the two big black dots. Ignore that little rainbow thing. We'll get to that in a minute. Just ignore that for right now, that bar symbol. Just ignore that. And for our purposes right now, ignore that little note on the B string 3rd fret. Okay, so what George Harrison is describing in principle is an E7 sound. And for how we're going to imitate what he did on the piano is to take our index finger, move it from the 3rd string 1st fret, the G string, and temporarily hop it over to the 1st skinny string 1st fret. That's the note F. Because remember, the principle here is an E7 chord with a note F on top. And what you hear the piano doing is alternating between the note F and the note E in the context of an E7 chord. So don't worry about how you're going to do that, you know, as a guitar player, because that's not the number one takeaway from this. Remember, he's doing it on the piano. But if you were so inclined, you could, instead of strumming the whole E7 chord, focus on either just the 1st string Or, you know, technically the second string is wide open, the B string is open anyways. You can include that to get that, you know, that effect of almost a chord. But again, though, that's not the number one takeaway from this. By the way, the reason that sounds so nasty, when I include the B string, I gotta pick like a real human being down here. Okay, the reason why that sounds so nasty, the note B coming from the open B string and the note F, first string, first fret, B and F have a relationship known as a tritone relationship. They are 3 whole steps apart, and together they sound like that. Oh, by the way, every time you've played an old-fashioned G7 chord, G is in golf, G7, it contains that tritone. By definition, every 7th chord, every dominant 7 chord contains a tritone. Okay, so B and F together, you know, have that tension. When I strum without the finger down, I have my open B and my open E. I'm back to a nice, happy relationship that you could describe as a fourth, the interval known as a fourth. Okay, so anyways, that's why that B and F together sounded bad to you. It's supposed to sound bad. It's a tritone. Okay, so getting back to George Harrison's discussion of this chord, in the context of the famous song called I Want to Tell You, well, famous because it's a Beatles song from one of the early albums, he was very proud of that dissonant kind of sound that he got doing that chord, because he felt it fit the emotion of the song. Okay, now he said John Lennon stole that chord from me in this song I Want You from Abbey Road. You know, She's So Heavy, I want you so bad. So let's see if I can do this. I want you so bad, baby, it's driving me mad, it's driving me mad. That chord after driving me mad, okay, it's this chord. Now, in that song, it is being done on guitar, and it is an E7 with an F on top. So you recognize that part for those of you who are Beatles fans, right? I want you so bad, baby, it's driving me mad, it's driving me. Okay, if you're keeping score, that happens at about 54 seconds. Okay, exactly 54 seconds into the song. Who am I kidding? Yeah, I made a note, 54 seconds. So now in that song, let's say it's John Lennon playing the guitar. I'm sorry, I don't know who. That's where this diagram is more significant. Assuming it's John Lennon, he's making a little bar on the 3 skinny strings at the first fret. So he's grabbing the F, but he's also grabbing the next 2 strings as well. Now he needs that note. That's the G sharp. That's an inherent part of an E7 chord. With his, I would guess, ring or pinky, he's reaching up on that 2nd string, 3rd fret, and getting another note that's a perfectly valid note in the E7 chord, happens to be the note G. And it's getting that cool dissonant kind of sound. Again, why, you know, what's going on? Why is that dissonant? My index finger, well, 3rd string, 1st fret is the note G sharp. 2nd string, 3rd fret is the note D. Guess what? Another tritone relationship. So you're hearing that tritone. And the F on the skinny 1st string, 1st fret, that's not helping the harmony any. Okay, so we're not even done yet. We're just getting started. No, George Harrison said, yeah, so John, I forget if he said he stole it or he borrowed the chord from me for that part of I Want You on the Abbey Road album. This is years later, right? Years later. George Harrison then said that chord was only used one other time in popular music to his knowledge. And great song. He said my chord, let's call it my chord, George Harrison's chord, showed up in Back on the Chain Gang by the Pretenders. I love that song. I love that song so much. And I thought, wait a minute, really? I don't remember that chord being in Back in the Chain Gang by the Pretenders. So just so you know, this is my idea of how to spend a Friday afternoon, is researching this. And that is why I have this book handy. So I looked up, hey, wait a minute. I'm going to look up Back in the Chain Gang by the Pretenders and see if the George Harrison chord is really in that song. I mean, George said, why would George lie? Okay, he got it a little bit wrong. But I'll show you why it's 100% understandable why he got it wrong. There I stand here today. In the part of Back in the Chain Gang, which I would call the bridge, it might be exactly 2 minutes and 5 seconds into the song when Chrissie Hynde sings, hold on, the powers that be that force us to live like we do. Okay, so the powers that be that force us to live like we do. Okay, she starts off on a D minor chord. The powers that be. Now the next chord, sadly, is not an E7. I wanted so badly for George to be right. It's an A7, but it does have that F on top. Okay, so I don't know. This is my idea of like, I wish I was like, I don't know, somehow on the clock for doing this research and like discovering what's going on, because I thought it was so fun. So Chrissie Hynde, the part of the song, like I said, about 2 minutes and 5 seconds, the bridge D minor to A7, and there is a riff, you know, at that moment in the song on the A7 chord where the guitar player, Chrissie Hynde, or whoever's playing the guitar on the track, is grabbing that F right there. Okay, so there's A7 and there's that F. So technically George was a little bit wrong, but he heard that play between the open E string and the note F. All right, I love it. I love it. You know, like I said, all these folks, all of them, Chrissie Hynde, everybody, they're all so talented and they're so great and we love what they do. And it's fun to hear them talk about the mechanics of this stuff, right? I could listen to that all day long. You know, where do they get their ideas from? How do they conceive of these ideas? You know, it's tempting to say, oh, these people are just geniuses. They just make this stuff up and dismiss it at that. But clearly, you know, here's George Harrison, not only aware that he's doing an E7 with an F on top, but let's assume it's him doing it on the piano or directing, say, Paul McCartney to do it on the piano. But he knows very well, yeah, E7, put an F on top, create this dissonance. And then he hears Back in the Chain Gang, like, oh, there's that sound. You know, he's, for all we know, he's a huge Pretenders. He was a huge Pretenders fan. I don't know, maybe, you know, who isn't? Everyone likes the Pretenders. So just fun to think about these folks, just like you and me, right? Working stuff out, trial and error, seeing what sounds good, seeing what fits the song, moving a finger, you're moving one finger and getting a new effect. Very fun stuff. Okay, so thanks for letting me share that with you. Bruce, I see your question, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. Yeah, Charlie, in light of our poll question about multiple teachers, Charlie Bigo says, when I learn a new song, I watch a number of different people here on YouTube to see how they play it. Excellent, excellent. That's the contemporary version of that, right? And it's free. I think I highly recommend that, especially if you're working with a certain YouTube video and things just aren't going well, something just doesn't make sense. Now, you guys, I assume you do this anyways, but let me just encourage you to keep doing that. Especially if things are not going well, get someone else's perspective, you know. Mike G, hello, Mike. Mike, I see your question too. Okay. Yeah, Max is pointing out, I think, Max, you're referring to like the chord changes, like D going to C. Max says it's like finger picking. You just have to put the time in, no way around it. Yeah, there's so many things like that on any musical instrument where at a certain point, you're you're left with wood shedding. They call it wood shedding, right? Or just shedding for short. You got to go and just do it 1,000 times. Now, when you find yourself doing that, when you discipline yourself, you say, okay, I'm just going to do this for this entire TV commercial break. You got 4 minutes of TV commercials. I'm just going to do it, or whatever. I'm going to do it while I watch the sunset out my back window. I don't know, whatever it happens to be. Just know that you are, number one, that's how you do it. That's how everyone did it before you, and you're in good company. You know, that's everyone you admire, famous, and maybe it's just someone in your town who's not famous. That's how they got good. They did it 1,000 times. They sat. It's funny to think of all these people sitting alone. I have no idea if this is a true story, but I remember hearing a story about after concert party, after a Van Halen concert, and no one could find Eddie Van Halen for the after party. And when they found him, he was like in a closet practicing the guitar, you know, just trying to find some peace and quiet, I guess. Is it true? I don't know. But how do you think he got so good? Just imagine every hotshot guitar player, they sat alone in a room, or put it this way, find me one that didn't. I'm going to assume that that's what they all did for a huge portion of the time. Eric Clapton would come home from school for lunch and just not go back to school. You know, so again, was I there when that happened? No. Was that a story I read someplace? Yep. Do I believe it? Yep. Yeah. So you're in good company if you have the discipline to sit down and do it a whole bunch of times. Don't let it bug you. That's what we all do. Certainly what I did. You know. Okay. Okay. So Mike G asks, hello from Texas, says Mike G. Hello, Mike. What is your overall opinion of the caged system? I think it's great. I don't use it directly, and I don't teach it directly. But if any of you begin to use the cage system with a teacher, or you get a book, or you watch some videos, and it makes sense, and you are unlocking, I always make little air quotes, unlocking the fretboard using the cage system, that's awesome. When I say I don't use it directly, and I didn't learn it directly, and I don't teach it to my students, I just don't say, hey, we're going to do the cage system today. Or there was no moment in my life where I got a book or watched a video or something like that and sat down and said, I'm going to educate myself in the caged. Well, I have done that about a year ago. Remember that live stream? I bought a caged book just to make sure I knew what I was referring to. I understood the caged concept before I knew there's such a thing as the caged system. So that's why I'm not against the cage system, but it's possible to arrive at the same ending point without paying $25 for a cage system book, which is a perfectly fine thing to do. Go get yourself the book. Or if you're working with a teacher who used that, stick with that teacher. It's great. A really simple example of what the cage system is, you take a D chord, D as in delta, and you glide that D chord up and down the neck, but you keep the fingers in the same relationship. And because it's based on a D major chord, everywhere you go, it's going to be another major chord. When you grab the conventional D chord, the root note, the note D, is the second string, third fret, the one your ring finger's touching. Therefore, any place where you slide that D formation or that D shape, the root note is always named after wherever the ring finger is. And now you've got the D from the word caged, C-A-G-E-D. Literally, that's what the D stands for. It stands for the D chord. C stands for the C chord, and so on. So it's just the tip of the iceberg, but that's what the cage system is all about. Taking something that you learned down at this end of the guitar, a chord shape, a major chord shape, C-A-G-E or D, and gliding it up and down the neck and naming it and being comfortable with it and Yeah, which is great. So my opinion is that the cage system is a worthwhile system, but some of you might have already arrived at that type of knowledge already. And if you have, don't feel guilty about it. Don't feel, the cage system is simply one way of looking at it. So, yeah, I got a caged book during one of our earlier live streams. Could have been almost a year ago. We're at number 55 now. And the book was well written. Glad I got it. I still have it, but it confirmed that what I thought, which was, I get the idea. I just never called it the cage system. I called it taking a C chord and moving it up and down the neck. But I'm really simplifying the whole cage thing. So don't yell at me and say, well, it's not just taking a D chord and going up and down the neck. I know it, but it kind of is. It kind of is like that. At least put it this way: what I just did with the D chord, that is the intellectual concept behind the cage system. And yeah, if you're curious, get yourself a book, and you can dig deeper into it. I'll say this: I don't have a better system for you. I just have more sort of user-friendly. I don't know, more user-friendly approach. So, yeah. I do not want your takeaway to be like, oh, Jonathan says that the cage system is complicated and boring and bad. Not at all. Not at all. But it's simply one way of arriving at the same result. Okay. Okay. Bruce, I see your question. Bruce asking a great question. Bruce says, when blues soloing, do you integrate famous guitar licks, say from B.B. King or others? Yes, although I might not even know I'm doing it. It might have been something I learned a while back, and I might not. I don't always think, oh, I'm going to play that B.B. King lick. I'm going to play whatever. Now, full disclosure, lead guitar improvising is not where I've invested the majority of my practice time. It's not my thing. Long story short, I want to make it my thing. I want to get better. One of these days, I'm going to retire and get really good at the guitar. So I'm not the best person to ask. I have the little riffs that I do. If someone points at me and says, "Take it, YouTuber," I like to think I can get through a 12-bar blues and not embarrass myself and sound totally fine. And inside, I'd be thinking like, okay, that's everything I got. I'm done. I'm out now. That's my blues solo. You got it right there. So there's a very cool book. I don't have it at my fingertips. There's more than one, but there's one book that my mom actually gave me as a Christmas present back in the early 90s. And it wasn't like literally called 101 Blues Riffs for Guitar, but it's a cool blues book. I showed it on a previous live stream. It might have been like Book of the Week or something. I think it was by Wolf Marshall. Wolf Marshall has done a lot of guitar education over the years, books and magazine articles and stuff. Oh no, but this one wasn't Wolf Marshall. Michael Wolfson. So close. Michael Wolfson. Wolfson. Michael Wolfson. Blues Riffs. I forget the exact title of it. He did a very cool thing where he would give credit to the blues player who he learned the riff from, and he'd say, here's how so-and-so, here's how Johnny Winter, here's a Johnny Winter riff, here's a Buddy Guy riff. And his book is not the only one out there like that, but I really appreciate that. That's fun. Oh, I'm playing a so-and-so riff. And so it's a great way to learn stuff, learn blues riffs, because in a perfect world, all of us who want to be good guitar improvisers, we'd learn tons and tons and tons of riffs from every guitar player under the sun. And then that would help us develop our own style. And it's a beautiful idea. to keep track of them, unless you're going to carry around a notebook for the rest of your life, to keep track of all those riffs, you have to give them what I call value. And one way to assign value to a riff is to name it after the person who did it. I got that cool Buddy Guy riff. I got that cool Albert King riff, you know. It's a great way to create that memory palace. You guys hear about this, the creating a memory palace in your mind, you know. So to keep those riffs in your head, it seems to me like it's absolutely crucial to use them constantly. In a perfect world, if that was your plan, to be just a great blues guitar player, including a great blues soloist, I don't see any way around doing it every single day. It's like wanting to be fluent in a foreign language. You can't just speak it once a week, right? You got to like go to the country. So go to blues jam sessions, right? Do it every day, every day, every day. So the bad news is you have to do that. You have to, if that's your number one goal. The good news is, you know how good you get if you're doing it every day. You're doing a certain amount of practicing at home. You're going out in the evening and doing it, you know, on a regular basis. Oh man, like there's no stopping you, you know. So Bruce, you asked a simple question. The answer is yes. I do integrate famous guitar licks by other people. In fact, best case scenario, that's what I'm doing, as opposed to, you know, inventing my own. Okay. Brian, I see your question. I'm going to get back there in a second. Okay. Brian, getting back to strumming the Knock on Heaven's Door. You bring up a good point. Brian says, Jonathan, could you add an extra strum when transitioning chords? No, nope. That's because you'd throw off the timing. You know, I'm glad you asked though, because you may not be the only one who had that idea. Remember I said, I love watermelon. I love watermelon. Say we're doing one-on-one lessons. I would hold you, like in-person lessons, I would hold you to that exact strum at all costs with no, even though on the Bob Dylan recording, he's not locked into that one strum only, but he's locked into that amount of time on each chord. I love watermelon, 2 clicks, right? So nope, you can't add an extra strum, you know, because that would throw the timing off, you know. Okay. All right. So let's it's almost time for let's just jump in and do it. Let's do our weekly play along song of the week. Here's one you didn't see coming. We've done Neil Young, we've done Bob Marley, we've done Bob Dylan, all the Bobs. But have we ever done, and let me assure you the answer is no. Have we ever done, wait for it. Hold on. There we go. Have we ever done Iggy Pop? Nay. Tonight's the night. Iggy Pop, The Passenger. My wife and I were watching a program the other night, a series on TV called Sugar with Colin Farrell. Very cool. Colin Farrell, Amy Ryan, and more. Very entertaining TV series. And the season ended with was Colin Farrell driving away, and The Passenger by Iggy Pop kicked in. I was like, yeah, man. Now, there's an F chord. Sorry, I tried to stay away from F chords for you guys, for my students. I try to stay away from them as long as possible, just because I know not everybody feels comfortable about F, but that's all about to change, because now you have a reason to get good at the F chord. Okay, so I always say this, but tonight I'm gonna not just talk the talk, but I'm gonna walk the walk. We're gonna keep this preparation very short. Okay, The Passenger by Iggy Pop. It's this sequence over and over and over again. A minor, F, C, G, A minor, F, C, E. The same duration on each chord. I'm going to give you two ways of strumming it. Both ways are important. One way is a lot easier than the others. Let's get the left hand out of the way. For the F chord, do whatever however you usually do F. I'm probably going to do my 4-finger F chord, 4 fingers on 5 strings. It's essentially an F bar chord, but I'm not doing the bar. Instead of doing an F bar chord with a complete bar, I just grab the 2 treble strings, okay? G, definitely do G with your middle ring and pinky, okay? You won't regret it. It's going to make it a lot easier to go from C to G to A minor if you do G that way, okay? That's the end of the discussion on the left hand. Right hand. If you listen closely, and I know I did in getting ready to play this song, it sounds to me like there's 2 guitars. And certainly this works great with 2 guitars. One guitar, and that's going to be some of you, I hope, is going to do the easier job. 2 downstrokes for every chord in slightly slow motion. A minor, F, C, G. A minor to F, to C, to C, to E, E major, by the way, 3 fingers. That creates a nice tension with that E major. Okay, just 2 downstrokes. I am a passenger. Dun, 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 dun. Now, that is not the guitar part that really gets your attention. We're going to do that part right now. This part it's not easy because he's playing essentially on the upbeats. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna grunt the things I do. I'm gonna grunt because I want you to hear where the downbeat is, and I want you to hear how the guitar responds with an up, down, up. Ready? Okay. I gotta move my Fox and Park. Sorry. Okay, there we go. 2, 3, 4. Okay. So here's what's going on. After each grunt, you're going to go up, down, up. Slow motion, grunt. Up, down, up. Grunt. Up, down, up. C, C, C. G, G, G. If you want to be really cool, grab the final upstroke. Once you finish the final upstroke, mute it with the edge of your picking hand. Up, down, up. Grab it. Up, down, up. Okay, now we're going to go slower than that, but that's about the, I am the passenger. That's about the speed that the song is going. We're going to take it a little bit slower. Now, we're going to start in a minute. What might be tricky is I'm going to do that up, down, up, up, down. That's going to be me. Those of you who are going down, 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 and I hope some of you are doing that because that might be your comfort zone. That's great. That to my ear, that is happening on the track with a second guitar part. It might be tricky for those of you to do that while I'm doing. So, number 1, don't worry about it. Number 2, I'm always going to encourage you guys to go to the original recording and play along with the original recording. It doesn't matter what happens right here. What happens in live stream stays in live stream. But it can be tricky because the guitar that's going up, down, up, up, down, up is so prominent and so clear that it might be tricky for some of you to integrate the simpler strum. You know, what happens, happens. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Okay, I'm just about ready to go if you are. So you guys have those two strumming options. To the best of my ability, I'm going to stay exactly true to this because that's what the song does. Carlos Alomar is the guitar player, or at least one of the guitar players. David Bowie is the producer on this track. Oh, I read David Bowie might be playing piano on this track. I didn't listen closely enough to hear if there's any actual piano, but he's the producer. Song written by Iggy Pop, although the music, it was Iggy Pop and another guy who did the music for this. Iggy Pop did the lyrics. Obviously, he's the singer. We'll start in a minute. Before I forget the intro here, this is the intro. He does it a whole bunch of times before the words come in. I might not do it quite so many times because, you know, life is short. And the song goes on for a pretty long time. I'm going to do like the first half of the song. The first half is enough, right? Okay, what do you think? I'm a passenger. All right, I think everything you need is in the shot. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. For those of you who are going to just do downstrokes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bum, bum. That's what your entrance is going to be like. And try not to get distracted by the fact that what you're going to hear is me going 1, 2, 3, 4. That grunt is when you're going to play that first downstroke. Okay, let's just do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Passenger, and I'm right. I ride through the city backside. I see the stars come out of the sky. Yeah, they're bright in a hollow sky. You know it looks so good tonight. Passenger, I stand under glass. I look through my window so bright. I see the stars come out tonight. I see the bright and the hollow sky over the city's ripping sky, and everything looks good tonight. Singing la 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 la. Okay, what do you think? A little different, right? A little different. And trust me, singing it and playing it is a little bit different too, right? It's a little bit of a challenge until I figured out something. In general, his first 3 syllables, I am, they go with the A minor, up, down, up. I am a passenger, you know, so that helped me. I am the passenger, you know. Okay, so this song checked a lot of boxes for me as a teacher. Obviously, a total of 5 really familiar chords. Sadly, one of them's F. It's all right. But an extremely repetitive chord sequence. You can sum it up on one piece of paper. You know, I love that, right? 2 strumming options. 1, pretty easy. By the way, real quick, the singing and strumming, if I did it the first way, 2, 3, 4. I am a passenger. ride and I ride. That's what it would sound like. I ride through the city backsides. Nothing wrong with mastering the song that way. 2 downstrokes per chord. Because if you're keeping a steady beat, you got the flow going, your fretting hand is cruising between those chords, getting good sounds, you've accomplished something. That's great, you know. In fact, that's the best way to prepare for the more authentic, or I shouldn't say more authentic, because I think there is a guitar doing that, but it's a great way to prepare for the other guitar part, the more prominent guitar part. Another box that this song checks for me as a teacher is just how loud and clear that guitar part is. Banana, banana, almost like a horn section. Banana, banana. Okay, so there you go. Our weekly guitar playing along. The passenger, like Iggy Pop. Thank you, Mr. Pop. So. All right. I see the chat. I see lots going on in the chat, and I want to see what I missed. Randy, you like that one? Yeah, Chris Creates is making a good point. Chris, you said it better than I could. Chris says, I like that, but my hand wants to do the down strum first. Exactly. It's not intuitive. But you got it. Yes. Chris says she got it. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, not intuitive. But you know, you hang in there. Remember, my goal is not for all 39 of you watching at this moment to now have this song mastered. In fact, just the opposite. I hope there's, I don't know, a percentage of you who are like, dang it, I think I could do that if I just give it some thought. I'm gonna, you know, that makes my day. If all 39 of you, 46, how that turn into 46? If all of you just nailed that, I mean, that's cool. We're having a global play along, sing along. That's awesome. But I still like the idea that a couple of you were like, I can't quite get there, but like, I think I can do it. And of course you can, of course. Candy says, show me that F again. Okay, so I'll show it to you from a different perspective. A minute ago, I said, do the big F bar chord, but then instead of the full bar across 6 strings, just have it touch 2 strings. I'll say it another way. Index finger, 2 treble strings, 1st fret. Remember that whole concept of rolling over that finger on the edge? You actually want to be squeezing with the edge, the side of your finger, the side closest to your thumb. Middle finger, 3rd string, 2nd fret. Now watch out. The pinky, 4th string, 3rd fret, ring finger, 5th string, 3rd fret. So the ring finger is reaching the furthest over, okay? Now, this is not some kind of easy way of doing F. Obviously, there's no, it just feels good. I avoid bar chords. I take no pleasure in playing bar chords. And yet I like a big full sounding chord that's, you know, at least 5 strings, right? So to me, this it does what I need. I get to strum 5 strings and I get to avoid a complete bar, and it works for me. Also, there's tons and tons of songs, and this is one of them, where F and C are neighbors. So my ring finger, I'm on the F, my ring finger is already in the right place for the C chord, and my index finger too is not literally where it needs to be for a C chord, but so close. I can kind of just roll my index finger over and it's in the right 2nd string, 1st fret for a C chord. So in my mind, this F really allows me to go to that C in a way that works for my hand, you know. And I would imagine with a little bit of practice would work well for anybody. Having the ring finger be able to stay stable as a pivot finger or anchor finger is huge, just in general. Anytime one finger can stay, right, it's a beautiful thing. Candy says, is the F bar, the complete F bar chord, is that actually okay? Oh yeah, totally. Chris says, I'm not afraid of F chords. Excellent. Okay. Max, I see 3rd fret G. Max, yeah, I know you're asking about the G chord. I'll just show you again what I'm doing for the G chord. I don't have a name for this. Some of my students do. They say it's the G chord you make me play, Jonathan's G. It's a G chord with no index finger involved. Pinky, skinny E string, 3rd fret, ring finger stretching way across. And this is the killer for some people, separating the ring and the pinky. So if this is challenging, yeah, I get it. Believe me, I get it. Ring finger, 6th string, 3rd fret. That's the fat string, 3rd fret. Middle finger, 5th string, 2nd fret. Remember, skinniest string, littlest number. So 1st string is the skinny one. 6th string is the big one, right? And see how my index finger is just, down to clown. It's ready to rock and roll. My index finger is ready for whatever is coming next. And so many chords that pair well with a G chord require the index finger to, be ready to go up here at the 1st fret, G to A minor, G to C, G to F, G to D7, G to G7. Yeah. Okay. So that's my my argument in favor. By the way, I feel the need to tell the story as, let's see, I began working in a little guitar store outside Chicago when I was 20, give or take, 21. And a whole bunch of guitar teachers teaching lessons there, and me, I was just the guy at the cash register, and I would play a guitar now and then in the shop. I was not a very advanced guitar player at all. And one of the guitar teachers saw me doing G this way with my index, middle, and ring. He said, that's great, but you really should also learn it this way. And because that was one of the few direct pieces of advice I got from an adult guitar teacher, who was probably 26 at the time, I really took it to heart. I thought, oh, wow, this guy. I mean, he was a good guitar player, don't get me wrong. It's just funny because in hindsight, we were both young kids. Anyways, because that was advice coming to me from a pro, I thought, well, he wouldn't say it if it wasn't important, so I better learn this other way of doing G. So, but I'm not the only one. Okay. Brian, I see your question. Brian says, Jonathan, would you use a metronome in strumming guitar? Oh, yeah. Yeah, in principle, use a metronome or a metronome app. And the metronome app that I use here on my phone is called Stage Metronome. And when I think it's simple to use, but has a ton of bells and whistles if you want them. And it's nice and loud. And I didn't shop around too hard for different metronome apps. I found this one, it worked great. So Stage Metronome for free. It was free. And don't let me stop you from buying a physical metronome, or if you have one, a physical metronome, yeah, use it. Knock yourself out. Any kind of metronome is good. Metronomes, in my own playing, I use metronomes a lot, for sure. In my own practicing, for sure. And I recommend them. As a teacher, I don't always push metronomes on students, especially early on, because of the pressure. I mean, that's just a lot of pressure coming from that incessant click. Sometimes I wait until a student inquires about it, because like some of you might have heard about this thing called a metronome, or you might have seen someone using it. Ask your doctor if a metronome might be right for you. Ask your teacher if a metronome might be right for you. And by the time a student asks me about it, they probably are ready to start using it. And then I show them how I use it in my own practicing. Let's talk about the negative stuff about using metronome. The sound is annoying, and the metronome is always right, and you are always wrong until you get good at it. Then you're with the metronome, but the metronome becomes your boss, and that's the frustrating part. Here's the beautiful thing about the metronome: you can turn it off anytime. You can change the exact tone of the click sound with a lot of them. You don't have to. You get 2 different clicks or 3 different clicks. You can slow it down. In fact, you have to slow it down, right? You have to find your sweet spot where you can execute whatever it is with as little stress as possible. So yes, of course, you're in control of the metronome. That's a beautiful thing. Second thing is, a metronome is possibly the only way you can actually see if you're making progress on anything. You know, playing a certain chord change. At the beginning of the live stream, we're talking about changing from D to C. Oh, let's just do it. I'm going to set my metronome app here. Great sound. Okay. I have it set at 80 beats per minute. When we were talking about that D chord earlier, I said, hey, you know, squeeze a D and then squeeze a C. So maybe without even strumming, I'm going to do D for 4 counts. D, 2, 3, and then switch. So how about I'll hold it for 3, and on the 4th, I'll move. D, 2, 3, lift off. C, 2, 3, lift off. Okay. Lift off. C, 2, 3. That gives you enough time to confirm I'm holding the right chord. Give it a good squeeze. Don't overdo it. You don't want to. This should not end up feeling painful. You shouldn't finish this exercise and think, "Oh, my fingers, dang it!" Then you're squeezing too hard. You know, firm but fair. And then let's say you're doing that. You're doing just great. Notice I'm not even strumming yet, but what about changing to 100, 120 beats per minute, 150, 160? Here's 120. And go. D, 2, 3, lift up. C, 2, 3, lift up. Okay. Now you can include strumming, of course. You know, you could strum the first one like D, 2, 3, lift up. C, 2, 3, lift up. You know, my point is, with a metronome, you can actually put a number to your progress. You can quantify it. You know, think about it. If someone said to you, how good are you at the guitar? In general, don't be modest. I know some of you might say, oh, you know, I'm not very good or whatever. I'm a beginner. Some of you might say, no, I'm pretty good. But how do you answer that question, right? How do you answer how good you are? What you can tell yourself in the moment is, hey, yesterday I could do this thing, whatever it happens to be, at this speed. My goal is such and such. You know what I'm saying, right? It's a beautiful thing. I don't know any other way to quantify your progress on your instrument other than, the number of Grammy Awards you have, the number of followers on Instagram. I don't know, a metronome is a beautiful thing. Okay. Gregory says, I use a metronome or drum machine about 30 minutes a day. Excellent. You'll never regret it. One thing that I personally find motivating about the metronome, because it's so incessant, it creates this atmosphere where it makes you want to keep doing the thing over and over again, because the metronome is not going to stop, and so then you keep practicing whether it's a scale, a chord change, whatever it is, over and over again. It has, at least for me anyways, it has that kind of motivational quantity. Hey, I see a couple of very nice super chats coming in. So I want to say thank you to Gregory and thank you to Rock Lobster for your super chats. Super chats are one way you can support the live stream here. It's that $sign down at the bottom of the chat. Click on that and it will tell you what to do. So thank you, Rock Lobster and Gregory. I appreciate that. Gregory, I think I saw that you mentioned that you have been away for a little while, and I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're back, and you could check out this this live stream. Hope I see another one. Randy, I thank you. You guys, very generous of you. Thank you so much, you guys, for the super chats. Hey, this live stream, as you guys know, is recorded, and I timestamp it. Usually it's Sunday morning, but some of you are probably watching this on Sunday or Monday or Tuesday. So for those of you who can't make the live stream, but watch it later, thank you guys. Thank you for watching it later. I check out the numbers. It's always fun to see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people watching this after the fact, which is awesome. I realize that this time on a Saturday just doesn't work for everybody. And it just happens to fit my schedule. But I appreciate everybody who's watching, and I hope the future is bright So I hope Sunday and Monday and Tuesday are all great days. I guess we'll find out, we'll see. Joseph is asking a great question. Hold on, I just opened a window. I didn't mean to. Hold on, there we go. Joseph is saying, I think you're talking about the G chord, right? Joseph is saying, why don't you teach this way of doing G? And my name for that, by the way, is the 4-finger G chord. Ring and pinky on the second and first strings, 3rd fret. Let me start this way. Pinky, 1st string, 3rd fret. Ring finger, 2nd string, 3rd fret. Index finger, 5th string, 2nd fret. Middle finger, 6th string, 3rd fret. Why don't I teach this? I do when it's the right chord to play. And it's not always the right chord to play. You mentioned that some country guitar teachers teach that way of doing G. Yeah. It's that nice chiming sound on the 2 treble strings. So I'm going to answer your question in 2 ways. I definitely encourage my one-on-one students and all of you to also learn G this way, because there's some songs that specifically use that G. And if for no other reason than to take pride in knowing, hey, man, I'm playing that G chord exactly like Paul McCartney, exactly like so-and-so. The reason why that is not my default G, I'm going to go back to what I said before. That particular G ties up your index finger, and it is absolutely illogical to play G that way when the prior or subsequent chord is a chord that requires your index finger to be up here at the 1st fret. For instance, G going to C, G going to A minor, G going to F, G going to G7, G going to D7. I'll leave it at that. So there's no logical reason to make that G your default G. So that's why when G comes up in our live streams and my own teaching, I do not teach people. Well, I don't. That's not the number one way I show people how to play a G chord. Then again, when it comes up in a certain context, I Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. That's absolutely how you play the G for Wish You Were Here. Hey, I heard David Gilmour is on tour, doing just a few dates in the U.S. Later in the fall. So, yeah. And Charlie Beagle says that's not what he's talking about. Planted ring, and then again, I'll read it more carefully. Planted ring and pinky, 3rd fret. Well, I think it is, Charlie, with all due respect, I think it is what he's talking about. He's talking about doing G that way, and then maybe like changing to C that way, what I would call it, what is called a C add 9. Again, I teach whatever the song uses, and I encourage everybody to learn every possible option of every chord. So, there's 4 moving first. Candy, there's the G that any serious guitar player knows how to play. And then they use it when it's the right way to do it, which is a lot of the time. Joseph, I got to squint to read this. Joseph, I think you're just talking about other ways of playing chords, and that's great. There's so many options out there. Just keep in mind a couple things. It's a very cool goal to play something exactly like the recording. And whenever possible, I steer people in that direction. So Joseph, if what you're describing is how a specific song goes, then of course I would teach it that way, 100%. That's principle number 1. Principle number 2, I always encourage people to learn cool variations on chords. For instance, we started today's live stream talking about how C add 9 is an interesting variation on a C chord. It's not the one that Bob Dylan uses for knocking on heaven's door, right? So, but in general, sure, I teach people, you know, other options. So that's a variation on a C chord, but I think we can all agree that that's not the C chord. So, and if you're talking about keeping those two fingers planted, yeah, that's Wish You Were Here. And so if I was teaching someone Wish You Were Here, I would say, hey, in fact, I do this all the time. It's my job. I say, hey, let's learn Wish You Were Here. Plant your ring and pinky right there. And they can stay there for like the vast majority of the great introduction to Wish You Were Here. So I think we're talking about the same information. The question is, when would I introduce that information? And, you know, I introduce it as needed, you know. Don't forget, I teach 45-minute lessons, man. And like, I take pride on being as focused as possible, you know, and also giving people something, not just information, but context, you know, saying, you know, here is a thing, here's where you can use it, here's where a famous person used it, here's the pros, here's the cons, here's how you could use it for writing your own song, and so on, you know. Yeah. Okay. Hey, our poll question, you guys are split here, basically. Very cool. Please do vote if you have not voted already. Our weekly poll question, all things being equal, would you prefer one teacher or several teachers? And 54 votes in general, slight lead to those of you voting for having one teacher only, keep it simple. That's 54%. And 46% are saying, hey, no, work with multiple teachers, get lots of information from different sources. So very interesting. I think that breakdown has been pretty consistent since we started the poll. I love it. Very interesting. No right or wrong answers. I love hearing where you guys are coming from. Okay, so we got plenty of time here. Hey, you know, one of my absolute favorite parts of the preparation for our show is a little segment I like to call some of the favorite guitar players on YouTube. I'm going to keep this kind of short. Everything I'm about to talk about is already in the description of this video. The names of the performers and the YouTube links to where you can find awesome videos by these people. And I made a couple little notes. Yeah, okay. So I realize that the majority of you are probably not going to suddenly leave this live stream and go watch the videos. But I get so excited by this, so I got to share these with you. Okay, so I got 1, 2. I got about 6. Okay, in no particular order. Alessandro Asso Stefana. Asso, I believe, is his nickname, ASSO. Very interesting, very musical guy. Why did he get my attention? He has a new album out, and I love this so much, so much. I listened to one of the tracks already. Alessandro Stefana is from Italy. I believe Brescia, Italy. Okay. Multi-instrumentalist, very musical guy, has played with a variety of people. He took the vocal tracks from an American folk singer named Roscoe Holcomb, a cappella vocal tracks, and he added his own very cool music underneath these vocal tracks. Now, these are vocal tracks that go back like decades. This is old school country singing, Roscoe Holcomb. So the track that I believe I shared with you guys is Roscoe Holcomb singing Moonshiner. And many of us, especially me, first heard Moonshiner from Bob Dylan singing it on one of the bootleg recordings when Bob Dylan was a young guy. Well, this is Roscoe Holcomb singing it with Alessandro Stefana adding in modern day, background. Anyways, Very, very cool. And in this particular case, I have a YouTube link to that track I'm discussing, Moonshiner. But I also I did a little bonus YouTube link to Alessandro Stefano just doing his own thing, which is very cool. Okay, moving on. From the country of Mali, the continent of Africa, Fatoumata Diawara, Fatoumata, last name Diawara, Fatoumata Diawara. She is a musician, but also an actress. Her second album just came out. Very cool guitar playing, singing, very interesting. Highly recommend checking her out. Okay, another link that I posted, Booker T from Booker T and the MGs, Booker T Jones. Very interesting for me to find out that he also plays the guitar. I don't know why I don't assume these things. I didn't know Booker T also played the guitar. So this came to my attention thanks to Ella Ray Feingold. You've heard me talk about her before. Fantastic guitar player. Prince told Ella she was too funky. Now, that's a pretty cool thing to have on your resume. But she's also a Grammy Award winner, so that's pretty cool too. But Ella Ray Feingold shared a post on her Instagram channel of Booker T. Jones playing the guitar, and that blew my little mind. So I did a follow-up, and while I can't share the video that she shared, if you go to her Instagram page, you could scroll down and find it. Ella, E-L-L-A, Ray, R-A-E, Feingold, F-E-I-N-G-O-L-D. You'll just scroll down and eventually you'll find the video of him playing. But what I did find was what he was talking about in the video, which is that he played the guitar on a William Bell song called I Forgot to Be Your Lover. That's the YouTube link I shared. You don't see Booker T. Jones playing the guitar, but it's him on the cut. So you hear William Bell singing his song, I Forgot to Be Your Lover, with Booker T. Jones on the guitar. I thought that was so cool. All right, moving on. There is a style of instrument, a type of instrument called a benju. B as in baseball, E-N as in Nancy, J-U, benju. And it's a type of electric guitar instrument, but instead of pressing down on the strings with your left hand fingers, if you're right handed, you press down buttons, which control, which have the same effect. There's a fellow who plays this and sounds great. He just wrapped up a tour of the UK, so I don't know when the next time you're going to see him again, but he's from Pakistan, Ustad Noor Baksh. That's almost guaranteed to be not how you pronounce his name. Ustadnoor from Pakistan. Very cool sound, very cool video. Highly, highly recommend it. Okay, last two. Speaking of electric instruments, Rahman Mamadli. Oh man, what a great tone. From Azerbaijan, playing a Czechoslovakian guitar, the Jolana guitar company from Czechoslovakia. Apparently, that's the guitar. I'm not even joking. That's the guitar if you want to play this type of music. Very cool. Killing it with a great tone. Rahman, R-A-H-M-A-N. Last name Mamadli, M like Michael, A-M-M-A-D-L-I. Very cool. And last one, from Niger, one of the hottest and least developed parts of the world, a guitar player who I hope I've recommended him to you guys before, Bombino, B-O-M-B-I-N-O, part of the world that is mostly Sahara Desert. Oh, Bombino is on tour right now, and Bombino is so good and so interesting. Okay, so in that recommendation list, we covered Italy, Mali, Memphis, Pakistan, Azerbaijan, and Niger. All right, that'll keep you busy for a little while. One of my favorite parts about getting into this, about preparing for this live stream, is that little segment right there. Some of the coolest guitar players on YouTube. Enjoy. And again, all those names, all that information I just spoke about is already in the description of this video. All right, check. Checking off my checklist. I am looking back at the chat. I am here for your questions. When you have a question, don't forget to put a few question marks in advance. I'm going to wet my whistle. Some Fox and Park cream soda, the taste of East Haven. Do they know that I'm promoting their product? I kind of hope not. Okay, scrolling. Okay. Hey, you guys, I want to just point out that it's not lost on me that some of you have been here with me on this live stream for the last 90 minutes. And I appreciate that, you guys. Thank you for hanging out. Okay. All right. The poll is tightening up. Don't forget to vote in the poll. Question is, all things being equal, would you prefer one teacher or several teachers? Okay. Closing that down. My own dumb question. Why not? Why not? I ask dumb questions so you don't have to. My own dumb question of the night. Ready? What is the easiest genre of guitar to play? It's a dumb question. And yet, folk music, country music. There you go. Any style of music can be performed at a very high level. But I'll stick with my answer. Folk music / country music, your basic 16 chords maximum, pretty rudimentary strumming, and then you're up and running, you know. It's a dumb question though, right? You know, it's all hard. If you want to play it well, if you want to take it to the pro level, it's all hard. But I asked it, so I'll answer it. Yeah. Folk music, country music, acoustic guitar. Yeah. Are there easy aspects of every kind of music? Oh, definitely. You know, your basic rock and roll power chord. You know, you can't get much easier than a rock and roll power chord. A nice steady blues shuffle. Pretty easy stuff, right? So there's easy stuff everywhere if you know where to look. I would go as far as to say I pay my mortgage by finding easy stuff and showing it to people. Valuable stuff, classic stuff, important stuff. Right? Smoke on the Water puts a lot of regular unleaded in my 18-year-old vehicle. And yet, you know, wouldn't you want a teacher to have like a library of pretty easy, accessible stuff to get you started, right? To get some success and satisfaction. Okay, so there's my own dumb question of the night. Check it off. Just in case my wife is watching, I want to say hi, sweetie. Hope you're doing well. In case my mom is watching, hey, Mom. Thanks for watching. Again, thanks to Beginner Guitar Lessons for being our moderator tonight. Thanks for being here. Brian, I see your question. Thanks for teeing me up like that. Brian wants to know about my next book. I have been doing some work on my next book. It is a book of chord melodies. I've just about done writing them all out in a nice digital, easy to read format using my guitar software. Hey, in case any of you are curious, I use a guitar program. Bear with me for a second here. I use a guitar program called Guitar Pro. Let me see. There we go. Guitar Pro. I use Guitar Pro 6. I think now they're up at Guitar Pro 7 or something. Okay. In case some of you would like to write your own guitar music, but have it look all nice and organized, as opposed to that, you know, have it look like real, you know, like something you'd see in a expensive book. Guitar Pro. I figure if it's user friendly enough that I can figure it out, yeah, you guys could figure it out too. So I'm just about done with all that. As soon as I finish that, then I just make videos of me playing the song. So there's going to be 30 chord melody arrangements of these songs. And I sure intended to be done a long time ago, but I'm getting there. And I'm really happy with how it's coming out. I think you guys are going to dig it. And a handful of the songs were ones that you guys specifically requested. And so I'm excited about that too. I never did that before. I never took requests. In this case, because the book was going to be a variety of songs, it made sense to take some requests, as opposed to a book that's sort of like pure instructional material, exercise and stuff. That leads me to the next point, which I'll get to in a second. But thank you, Brian, for your question, because that I wanted to give you guys an update on that book. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you'll be the first to know when that book is ready for sale. And head over to Instagram or Facebook. Just do a search for the word SongBike. But you can find the information in the description of this video. Chris, I see your question. Chris says, if a big guitar sounds good, but a smaller one feels better, what do you recommend? You got to be comfortable. I recommend the smaller one. Yeah, you got to be comfortable. But, maybe shop around a little bit more and find a smaller one that sounds really good. If a guitar is not comfortable, it's never going to be comfortable. So you got to prioritize that. But I know what you're saying. Nothing like in fact, the reason I even own this big Martin D16 is because I'd been playing a smaller guitar, and this sounded so good. I was 20 years old, give or take. I'd only been playing guitar for a few years, and when I strummed like just a nice big E minor chord, it sounds so much better than what I had been playing. And I just had to have this big sounding guitar, and no regrets. But when it comes down to it, it's rare that I've ever needed a guitar this big and boomy. It's not uncomfortable, but it's just, shopping for a guitar, you factor in all these factors. So yeah, Chris, that's my advice. You got to be comfortable with it, but there's a lot of small guitars out there. So don't, you certainly don't want to get a small guitar that sounds bad, right? So you got to find one that you really like the sound, Scott, I see your question. Scott has what he's calling a dumb question. Scott says, when recording, when do you recognize that something's as good as it's going to get and just move on, even if it doesn't quite match what's in your head? Yeah, what Tom Waits calls putting the cork in the bottle. It's a tough one. In fact, I would say that would be one of my top questions if I were hanging out with a successful artist. How do you know when you're done? Bob Dylan writes lyrics up until, or edits and changes his lyrics right up till, he never stops, until it's time to cut the vocal track. And that's, but from everything I've heard, he's editing right up to the last second. It's tricky. Artistically, my answer is no, don't stop until it matches what's in your head. As a human being on a practical level, at a certain point, you want to move on to what's next, right? You want to move on with your life, That's why deadlines are important and helpful. Many of us do not have deadlines, right? You just want to play some guitar and get good, and and that's a nice, healthy attitude. As soon as deadlines come in, I'll say this, you can put it aside for the moment and move on, because maybe you have another idea that you want to develop in your mind, right? You have another idea, a whole nother song. Why cripple yourself just because the current one you're working on isn't exactly where you want? Maybe you need to step away from it, even if it doesn't match what's in your head. So I guess that would be my ultimate advice. Just tell yourself, I'm not giving up on this, but I have something else. I need some fresh air, or I have another idea or something, and then come back to it later. A tough one. Your question puts us squarely in the world of the creative process. And it's as you know, Scott, it's a big old messy world. So, but I appreciate you asking for my opinion, because that's about all you can do, right? Is checking with other people who are in the creative world and say, what do you do in this situation? And I would imagine you get a bunch of different answers. But on a less practical, artistic level, I would say, never stop until you get what's in your head, because like, what's the point? Like, the whole point is to take what's in your head and get it recorded, in some fashion. Oh yeah, Scott Rhodes is reminding us all that I have a Sweetwater affiliate link. So whether you want to buy the Guitar Pro software or anything, get yourself anything from Sweetwater, you can click on this link that I'm about to put in the chat. This is also in the description of this video. And you pay the same low Sweetwater price, but Sweetwater gives a little tiny bit back to this live stream to support what we're doing right here tonight. So I just put that Sweetwater affiliate link in the chat, but again, it's also in the description. When you click on that link, it takes you to the Sweetwater website. And for, I think, about 2 weeks, Sweetwater remembers you as that person who came to Sweetwater thanks to this YouTuber guy named Jonathan. I think it lasts about 2 weeks, and so you don't have to go and buy anything tonight, anytime in the next few weeks. And yeah, why not? Then again, from one consumer to another, say you're going to buy a $2,000 guitar, right? As much as I would love for you to use that affiliate link and I get a little tiny bit of that sent to me, when you're spending some serious money, and whatever serious money is to you, could be $40, you are allowed to call Sweetwater. Maybe you even know your personal rep at Sweetwater and say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this. Can you guys do any better on the price? And maybe they can. It's certainly worth asking, especially if you're spending, some serious money. So you'd be bypassing my whole link altogether. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's worth asking for, to see what they can do. Especially, the more you spend, the more likely it would seem to me, the more likely it would be that they just might cut you a little break. Sweetwater is going to do okay. They can cut off 2% of the price, 5% of the price, and they'll still survive okay. Hey, Joseph is mentioning a smaller guitar that he uses, a 3/4 size Luna Muse travel guitar. It's like a Baby Taylor, easy to play, sitting on bed or lying down. Excellent. Yeah, a lot of small guitars, a quality small guitars out there, more than ever. And I blame baby boomers. I blame all the adults, not just baby boomers, but adults who love the guitar and want to play it anywhere they go, at the office, on a vacation, on a trip out, at the cabin in the woods. They want to have a little guitar there to play. And over the years, manufacturers have certainly responded with tons of good quality, smaller instruments. And Baby Taylor is like the cutest name of them all. But doesn't Martin have a Martin Mini, something like that? But it seems like everybody has a whole bunch. Yes, Scott, going back to your question, that it might be your own limitations. You're coming up against your own limitations. Yeah, I get that. So you want to keep going till you make something as, match what you hear in your head, but you might not have the physical skills to do it. I get it. So again, that's part of the creative process. Although, take it as far as you can take it. That's hopefully anybody would give you that advice, but take it as far as you can take it. And hey, don't underestimate where your limitations lead you. B.B. King says the reason he plays the way he did is because his fingers don't move as fast as these other guys. So he did what he could with his fingers, which is now known as the awesome B.B. King way of playing the guitar, But B.B. King struck me as an extremely modest guy. But at face value, that's what he was saying. His he was working with his limitations, and that's all he could do. It's all any of us could do. So, hey, your limitations might still lead you to a result that other people think, oh, I like that thing right there. I'm JJ Cale. I love JJ Cale so much. Mark Knopfler. Neither of those guys are how do I want to say this? They don't have a big vocal range, you know. They sure do a lot within their limited vocal range. JJ Cale and Mark Knopfler, for example, you know. I wouldn't change a thing about either one of those artists, you know. They're working within their limitations, you know. Nothing wrong with that. And how do they sound so great? And yet, you know, vocally, I mean, their songs are so great, and vocally, they're not working with a whole lot of notes. Hey, Brian has mentioned that he has the Guitar Pro software. He has Guitar Pro 8. So I know I keep updating. Whenever they offer me a free update, I update my Guitar Pro 6. So I don't know if that means I'm getting closer to number 8 or not. But hey, Brian. Brian says good night from Scotland. Brian, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I know it's getting late. I know. So we got just a couple more minutes, and I'm checking things off my list. I want to share with you a student quote of the week, and I want to share with you what I mentioned before about, hey, if you have 20 minutes to practice, okay, what are you gonna do for 20 minutes? And we'll get back to that. Okay, student quote of the week. This is not poetry, but I just like how one of my in-person students said this, because it was just right to the point. We were working last week, Monday, I think, on it might have been an F chord, and she was just, you know, working on positioning and you know, every little, what I call a micro adjustment, every little micro adjustment she made, she sort of took care of one of the issues until all the strings would ring clearly. And she just said, well, it's all about finger placement. Yeah. I mean, when it comes down to it, especially if you're talking about a specific chord, and F is as good an example as any. Yeah, it's all about finger placement, making these little tiny adjustments, right? You know, clipping your nails on the F chord, rolling your index finger onto the edge, you know, arching over your middle finger just right. It's all about finger placement. When she said that, like, yep. And guess what your reward is when you master what I call the 16 most common chords, C, A minor, G7, all those. Your reward is just more chords where you work on those, the new set of chords. Could be bar chords, could be some jazzy or bluesy chords. And you're back to square one with those chords. You're like working the finger placement for those chords. It never ends. It never ends. And you wouldn't want it to end, right? Why would you want it to end? I'll tell you this though. As you graduate to more and more difficult chords, it makes your first chord seem so easy. Oh, they're just a joy to play. You look back like, oh, I used to think F was the hard one, and now I'm doing blah 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 blah, you know, and that's the hard one. And it's such a relief to go back to, you know, you name it, G, A minor, C, F, D, D7, all those. I'm always going to encourage you guys to push yourselves. For that reason, not just to be a better guitar player, but, you know, it makes the stuff you used to think was hard not seem so hard anymore. I know it's a weird logic. I get it. Okay. So I'm just checking back in. Hey, Many Vibes. I didn't see you join us here. Hey, Wendy. Wendy has been here. A lot of you have been here the whole time, man. Okay, we'll be wrapping up pretty soon. But I want to share with you this whole practice routine business. Okay, so just to recap, a week or two ago, I shared a quote that says, you play the guitar for 100 hours, it's only 18 minutes a day, but you'll be better than 95% of the other guitar players in the world. And I shouldn't even keep repeating that, because that's not how life works. But I didn't want to leave it at that. I'm like, well, okay, well, if you're going to practice 18 minutes, I rounded up to 20 minutes, can you still become a better guitar player? And the answer is, of course. In fact, that's a great goal, to play 20 minutes a day, every day of focused practice. And I'm going to focus you in a second. That's a great goal, you know. my ulterior motive or my agenda is to actually have you play way more than 20 minutes, but to show you what you can do in 20 minutes to become a better guitar player and, potentially get you so into something and feel so good about your progress that 20 minutes turns into an hour, that I do have an agenda here. But hey, you know what? You got 20 minutes. Okay, let's use it well. Okay, so I have here my hot little hands. Oh, we still got to get to evil ways. All right, we got two things to do in the next few minutes. Okay, set this aside, We don't need that. Okay. I'll keep both of these things short because I know we're coming up on a 2-hour mark. Okay, thank you, Iggy Pop. So you got 20 minutes to practice. Let's start with this right here. Okay. Long story short, scales, arpeggios, chords, and then the song of your choice, whatever song has been turning you on. Knocking on Heaven's Door, Wish You Were Here, your own personal song that you're writing. Any song you want. That part I am 100% leaving up to you guys. But so let's say you have 20 minutes to practice. Okay. Now I realize this might not be crystal clear to all of you. What I did here is I wrote out a C major scale across all 6 strings covering 2 octaves. And what I'm going to do, if some of you cannot see this super clearly, don't worry. Well, of course, you could always do a screenshot when possible and come back and zoom in. But, okay, I'm going to try this out. Here it is. We're at the 1 hour, 51 minute mark. 1 hour, 51 and 20 seconds. Okay, I'm going to hold this up as close as I can to the camera. This is not for you to memorize right now. Don't worry. But just so you can come back and look at this. So again, how do you spend 20 minutes? You take a 2-octave C major scale and you practice it a whole bunch of times with down up picking with your picking hand and with a lot of attention to the fingering designated at the bottom of the page. It just so happens the one I'm showing you here, index, middle, pinky. It's all index, middle, pinky. You don't use your ring finger until the second to last note. That's fine. Do I wish the ring finger got more of a workout? Of course. But that's not, hey, if you're going to do a scale for, let's say, 5 minutes, that is a victory, whether or not it uses the ring finger extensively or not. Okay, a 2-octave C major scale. We're starting with the C on the 5th string, the A string, 3rd fret. Okay, I will put this diagram in the chat. Okay, in the description. It's not there yet, but by this time tomorrow, this will be in the chat. So even if you can't do a screenshot. Okay, so what's the point? The point is you got 20 minutes. Take at least a couple minutes. Play this at any speed. Play it descending. Okay, down up picking with your pick. Memorize it. Play it faster. Play it with a metronome. For sure, move it to new starting places. You're always going to start with your index finger on the 5th string. But if you truly have it memorized, and you should, start, 6. 6, 8, 10, 6, 8, 10, 7, 8, 10. You know what I mean? Personally, you could take all 20 minutes and do nothing but what I just described there. But at least 5 minutes. Great use of your time, especially if you take it slowly and do everything that it says on there. Great use of your time. Okay, so remember I said scales, arpeggios, and chords. Okay, the arpeggio follow-up. I decided to stick with a C major arpeggio. Hold on here. There we go. Okay, those of you who have done one-on-one in-person lessons with me, you know I'm kind of obsessed with arpeggios. Okay. So there you go. Here we are, 1 hour, 54 minutes and 15 seconds. A C major arpeggio. By the way, why am I choosing C? Why not? I don't know. Might as well be C, right? Because the idea, again, memorize it and then move it all up and down the neck. In this case, we are doing this major arpeggio starting on the 8th fret of the 6th string. Still doing down up picking. Still going, ascending, and then see that arrow back down again. When I get to the 5-5-5, I am definitely doing a bar. My index finger is doing all those 5s, and these 2 8s, that's my pinky doing both those 8s at the same time, right? Little pinky bar. Some of you might never have done any barring of any sort with your pinky. See how my pinky is bending the wrong way? I'm trying to angle. Yeah, see that? That looks kind of grotesque, right? Barring with your pinky. Your pinky has to bend weird, Okay, so the C major arpeggio, easily, you can take 5 minutes of your 20-minute practice session. Work on it to the point where you have it memorized and you can play it smooth and steady. It doesn't have to be super fast at first. If that doesn't fill up 5 minutes, the remaining time, again, move it to a new starting place, always starting with your pinky finger on the 6th string. By the way, here's P for pinky, ring, index, 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 pinky again, pinky again. Okay, in case that wasn't intuitive. By the way, for sure, this little diagram down here, 5 means 5th fret and 8 means 8th fret, right? Okay, I'll leave it at that. So there's 10 minutes of practice easily right there. Okay, moving on. The next segment. Hey, how about some C major chords? Okay, these are chords. This ties in to some extent with the whole cage discussion we had before. I'm going to assume that you guys are perfectly familiar with the conventional regular C chord. Okay, here's 5 other ways of playing C chords up and down the neck. A couple things that are super significant. The fret designations, the 5th fret, 12th fret, 3rd, 8th, all that stuff. Obviously, you have to, obey those fret designations there, 5 different ways of playing C chords up and down the neck, okay? That could easily take 5 minutes of your time, but it'd be 5 minutes really well spent, You might not be able to get to all 5 of those in 5 minutes. You might struggle with 1 or 2. That's okay. Then that's how you fill up the 5 minutes. Work on those 1 or 2. Remember talking about the musical alphabet, how B and C are neighbors? That goes for C chords. Anything that's a C chord can become a B chord by moving it 1 fret backwards. When I say backwards, I mean down towards your tuning gears, towards the nut, towards the headstock of the guitar. Okay, so that's another way. Hey, if you bang all these out in way less than 5 minutes, you're like, hey, I know all those chords. Those are great. Okay, then just confirm, that they can all be turned into B chords, right? You can move them 2 frets higher and turn them into D chords. D as in delta. When I say higher, up towards the sound hole, right? C and D do not have the same relationship that B and C do. B and C, direct neighbors. To go from a C chord to a D chord, you got to skip over a fret and go to the next fret. So a C chord has to glide up 2 frets to become a D chord, So again, whip through those chords. They feel good. They sound good. Great. Make sure you can play them as other chords. B and D are the most obvious because those are alphabetically neighbors to the C chord. Okay, so between scales, arpeggios, and chords, even just 5 minutes on each one of those pages, awesome time well spent. You will never regret it. And then, like I said, hey, you got 5 minutes left in this 20-minute practice session. Play your song. We all have a favorite song we're working on. Could be a song you're writing. Could be, something you're getting ready for an occasion. Could just be that one song that you really have always wanted to get good at. Great, do it. Okay? All right, now, grab a capo, my friends. Even though we did not need a capo for our play-along song of the week, you might want to have it handy for the last thing we're going to do tonight, which I'm calling the evil ways exercise. And there we go, right there. Okay, evil ways. Evil Ways, as recorded by Carlos Santana. He did not write this song. But Sonny Henry, is that the name? Somebody can Google that and fact check me. I think Sonny Henry was the name of the guy who wrote Evil Ways. Here's what we're going to do with Evil Ways. I'm going to show you how to play along with the original, right? But then we are going to transpose it. And that's what you need the capo for. Okay. So real quick, Evil Ways has two chords that I bet you all know, the D7 and the C. The G minor might be less familiar to some of you, but look at that. Pretty easy peasy, right? Okay, a G minor chord. I'm going to hold this up to the camera. We're at the 2-hour mark. 2 hours, 24 seconds. See that G bass at the 3rd fret? G minor. I'm going to encourage you to do that G minor chord with one finger. Doesn't have to be the index, but that would be my go-to. One finger, making a little bar at the 3rd fret, 3 skinny strings. You have every right to include the open 4th string because it's harmonious. It's the note D, it's harmonious. So here's my one finger G minor chord. And I'm including the open D string for that extra boomy frequency there. And there's the correct playing. That's how you play Evil Ways in the correct key. G minor for 2 counts, C for 2 counts, G minor, C, G minor, C. You got to change your evil ways. That's the vast majority of the song right there. And you can almost feel when the D7 comes because this can't go on. Lord knows you got to, right? So you can feel that moment of tension. This can't go on. For example, that's one of the moments where it goes to the D7 chord. The vast majority of the song is 2 beats on G minor, 2 beats on C. Now, why do I call this the Evil Ways exercise? Because we're going to do some transposing. So I'm going to take a minute. The song is in the key of G minor. In fact, you could describe the song as a 1-4-5 in the sense that G minor definitely is known as the 1 chord. C would be the 4 chord, and D7 would be the 5 chord for sure. Okay. Now, we are going to put this in a different key, but we're going to capo up so we can still play along with the recording, if only to prove that we can. You guys would be totally comfortable playing it the way I just wrote it right there. Great. Okay. Song's in the key of G minor. G minor is not a hard chord, but you know, there's minor chords that are easier. What's the easiest minor chord you know? E minor, of course. Okay. So 2 questions for you. If we base the song on E minor, what are the other 2 chords? And where do we need to put the capo so it sounds like we're in the key of G minor? You know? Okay, so think about it. Think about it. We got 34 of you live here. All right. 2 questions. What are the other 2 chords along with E minor? And I'll give you a clue. Just think 1-4-5. Just like G was 1, C was 4, D7 was 5. Think the same thing in the key of E minor. And secondly, where do we put the capo? All right. I wish I could cue up the music to What show is it? Jeopardy? What show had that little theme music? Anybody? I know I can hear a little brain power. I can hear those wheels turning. Anybody? 1-4-5. I can't help myself. I want to write it so bad. Okay. Candy knows the next chord is going to be A. Candy, you are correct. Feel like this is like a like hangman almost, you know. Okay, and so therefore Candy had her hand raised, so I called on her. So what's the last chord going to be? And then somebody besides Candy, she can't do all the work. Wendy, you got it. Wendy's got it. And Chaz, I see you. Hey Chaz, did I know you were in the group here? Hi Chaz, how are you? Yeah, there you go. By the way, yes, this could be B major. This could be D major. It's just that doing the 7th version of it sounds so good. So I'm sticking with the 7th chord version of that chord. We're playing the 5 chord as a 7. How confusing is that? Okay, so everybody, someone besides Candy, Wendy, and Chaz, where do we put the capo? So E minor sounds like G minor. And I'll give you a clue. It's not particularly high up the neck. It's not going to be like 11th fret or something like that. And while you're giving me that answer, let's do this one more way. Let's move this to the key. Again, the reason I chose E minor is because E minor is such an easy chord, right? Okay, what if I said D minor? Poor D minor. D minor is kind of an underdog. It definitely makes the list of the 16 most common chords you have to learn. I swear, it's like it just doesn't show up as often as other chords. It doesn't get the respect it deserves. D minor is a very important chord. And yet, I have to be honest, it doesn't show up as often. And many of my in-person students, it's a weak spot for them. They just haven't played it much. They didn't have a reason to, even though it's on the list. Okay. Wendy, you got it, Wendy. Yeah, Wendy gave the right answer. If you want to play this family of chords, along with the actual Santana recording, you must capo at the 3rd fret. I'm going to put a big number 3 here at the end. Capo 3. Excellent. And I encourage you to do that, if only just for the fun of it, just to say, oh, you know, there you go. There you go. Okay. We're in overtime. We're in extra innings here. My weekend is going to begin pretty soon. Okay. If D minor is the 1 chord, what are the next 2 chords, and where do we put the capo in light of that? Candy, that is not the right answer. I'm so sorry. I will tell you that the next 2 chords are easy chords. They're not any oddball chords, nothing you have to do as a bar chord. They're familiar chords. That's one reason why I'm directing you towards the D minor. Okay, if D minor, Wendy says the next chord is G. You got it. And the last chord, and don't forget, we're going to have to capo this up to play along with Carlos Santana. So I'm looking for that answer there too. Where we're going to put the capo to make this group of chords fit the Santana version. Is this fun, you guys? This is fun for me. I hope it's fun for you. It's fun for me because it's Chaz, you got it. Chaz says DGA, and Chaz, I'm just going to make that into an A7, but either way. By the way, an A7 chord contains an A major chord, plus it adds on one more note. And Wendy and Chaz, you got it. Wendy and Chaz both identified that the capo must go on at the 5th fret. Capo 5 must go on at the 5th fret if you would like to play that family of chords along with the Santana version. I'm going to leave it at that. We could sit here. J. Paul Getty, you got it too, J. Paul. I'm going to leave it at that. But yeah, so some of you who feel a little out of your depth here, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. But my hope is that not that you suddenly magically understand all this music theory that you didn't know 20 minutes ago, but that some wheels are turning in your head and you think to yourself, hey, you know what? This doesn't seem like total rocket science. Maybe you didn't get to the answer or didn't get there as fast as these guys did or didn't get there at all. But there's a little voice in your head that says, well, like E minor, Then they went backwards one alphabet letter to D minor. B7, they went backwards one alphabet to A7. Okay. And musically, of course, you know, A, if you go backwards from A, you get to G. You know, maybe some of these things are like, well, what? That sounds okay. That's just alphabetical. That's not, you don't have to be Mozart, you know. And to make up for the fact that you're going backwards in the alphabet, you have to go forwards with the capo. You have to move the capo from the 3rd fret up to the 5th fret. I realize I'm not talking in particularly scientific or academic terms, but I try hard to remember before I knew this stuff, or simply to walk in your shoes and see things through your eyes a little bit. My hope is that of the 29 people still here, that I didn't lose too many of you, that a few of you are like, well, I'll wait to the bitter end to see what he says. And that those of you who hung in there, even if you didn't feel like this is your strength, that's okay. Hopefully a few of you are like, well, okay, I think I sort of get it. That's what we're going for, that you think you sort of get it. That I'll take that. I'll take that, you know, to be continued. All this stuff is to be continued. Okay, my friends, I think I checked off a bunch of things that I was hoping to do. And I think we got a few questions answered. All right. So this is the time of the night to say a few good nights, to remind you, all this stuff is going to be time-stamped. A bunch of the stuff that I refer to is already in the description of this video, and always will be. I always try to include some of the basics, like the Sweetwater affiliate link and all that kind of stuff. Bear with me. It could be sometime tomorrow before everything is time-stamped, but I enjoy that part of the show. I have to sit through the ads just like you guys do, so I get to enjoy that part of it as well. But thanks for being here. We will do this again next Saturday, Saturday the 13th. Sounds good. Cardboard. Cardboard says, it's my first time here and it's over. Cardboard, I'm sorry. But hey, you made it. You made it, man. That's you know, that's all we can do. Captain Hare. Hello, Captain Hare. Okay, so I'm going to say a few good nights. Thank you for being here, everybody. Captain Hare, thank you for being here. Deborah, Chaz, thank you for your super chat. I appreciate everyone's generosity so much. Wendy, Cardboard, Candy, Randy, Candy and Randy, Candy, Randy, Wendy. In the 1990s, I had 3 students in a row, and their last names were Schenefeld, Schlickman, and Shelton. And I thought, I got to get these kids to start an accounting firm or something. And now I have Candy, Randy, and Wendy. Jay Paul, thank you for being here. Who else? Who else is around? Max, Chaz, Many Vibes, thank you for being here. Rock Lobster, Scott Rhodes, thanks for being here. Brian, I think, Brian, you are hopefully curled up in a warm bed in Scotland, but thank you for taking part. And again, those of you who are watching this in the future, thanks for watching, everybody. I keep my eye on the numbers of how the views are with the live stream, and it's just so nice to see a consistent group of people watching these every week, and I love it. I love it, either during a live stream like you all, or after the fact. Awesome, very cool. Some things to look forward to. I do intend to get the SongBike merch happening soon. I look forward to having my Patreon page happening soon. The Chord Melody book is wrapping up. You can see I do not have the custom guitar I ordered, but in theory, it's going to arrive any day now. I wish I had more information. But you guys will be among the first to know, that's for sure. All right, I'll leave it at that. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I have a ball doing this. I hope you do too. And hey, tell a friend. You know, the only way this can get better is just more people taking part, asking questions, jumping in on our poll. Final poll results, by the way, before I say good night. The question is, all things being equal, would you prefer one teacher or multiple teachers? And in the lead, and I'm going to end the poll right now. 54% said one teacher only, keep things simple. And that's pretty much how the votes went the whole night. 46% said, hey, I'll take multiple teachers if they're all good teachers. Sounds good to me. All right, so 54% versus 46%. Very interesting. I wasn't sure how that poll was going to go. So that was pretty cool. But that's how it ended up. I had no idea. All right, you guys, I will see you next Saturday. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram or Facebook, because if I ever have to reschedule or cancel this live stream, that is my only way to reach out to you guys, really. So please do follow me on Instagram or social media. Just do a search for the term SongBike and you'll find me. Or I believe you can find out how to find me on social media in the description of this video. All right, you guys, that was fun. I will see you next Saturday. Be well, play your guitar, be safe, make good choices. I'll see you guys next Saturday.